But once you have that, it's yours. You have to pay the maintenance, the repairs, upgrades, and replacement when that finally does become obsolete. So with that in mind, quite honestly, an agency needs to budget $1,000 per year per siren. And I know right now the city's doing $2,000, which is terrific. We've been able to keep going, and I got updates for you as of this morning. We've been able to get going, and we're getting everything functional. But once everything's up and running, that it's still there's this looming reality that eventually these sirens are going to reach a point where they don't make parts anymore, and so you need to either not have your siren, which is technically a violation of federal law if the federal government put your siren there, or you're going to have to replace it, which is going to be out of your own pocket, because the federal government will not replace an item that they've bought for you. So with that, the real question here is, does Belle Fourche think that we want to put more sirens within the city limits of Belle Fourche? Just putting it out there bluntly. Because if so, that can be made to happen, but bear in mind that it comes with a lot of financial responsibility down the road as these sirens age.
How many do we have now?
Right now there are 5. The Hat Ranch one is not technically yours yet, because I wasn't going to sign it over a piece of property that wasn't functioning.
Right, and we got that fixed.
It's 95% fixed.
Okay. That's good.
We're waiting for one more little tidbit of code information, and it'll be up and running. Just a quick update on that. That's been a long song and dance. That siren has never functioned the way it should. You could set it off from there. If you knew what you were doing, you could walk up to the box, open the box, type in the codes, and set off the siren. But the idea is for dispatch to send out the signal to tell it to go. That has never happened. It was a bad coding on the circuit board from the factory. That thing has been shipped all around the United States, and it's spent some time on shelves and on desks. It got put back in Tuesday. The tech was back up this morning. Everything's ready to go, except the code that dispatch sends out, it talks too fast for this siren to understand it. So they got to build in a 1.25 second delay between the arming code and the code that it uses to actually go. So I got to get another tech up to work in dispatch, but it's right there. So we're good. And the Riverview Cemetery one, as of either Tuesday or this morning, I'm not sure which, but it's supposedly up and running also. So I think we are, all of the city limit sirens, I believe, to be functioning properly right now. And the Hat Ranch one is right there. It'll be coming quickly.
Can you tell us where all of ours are?
You've got the
We
one
got
up by the
Hat
landfill.
Ranch. What?
The one by the landfill.
Okay.
Riverview Cemetery.
Got that.
There's one outside the PD.
Okay.
There's one on top of the water tank on Summit Street. And Hat Ranch.
Okay.
Now, and I didn't print out a map with the siren locations, but long story short, I believe the entirety of Belle Fourche to be within 5/8 of a mile of a siren. That's quite honestly not bad. You're still not gonna hear it inside a building like this. Like I said, the one across the river, if it's a quarter of a mile, it's barely a quarter of a mile. And I'll guarantee you that you can't hear it in this building at noon. I would be very surprised unless you put your ear to the glass.
As far as what I'm thinking on lines of budget, so all of these ones that we have here, if they're replaced, that's on our pocketbook. If we put more in, they come through Homeland Security, right?
The initial cost.
The initial cost,
Mhm.
and then we would just have more maintenance.
Correct.
So, where we have $2,000 budgeted, were we just saying we were hoping no more than a couple a year or whatever needed to be maintained?
Well, and the thing is, that $2,000 has not been sandbagged. That's the key. The key is you gotta take this, put money in a piggy bank, and then when you get to the end of the year, and, you know, you haven't spent that money on repairs or batteries or whatever, you can't spend that money on something else. You really need to save it up, because you're
Oh,
gonna
we
reach,
need a rolling
you're gonna reach
reserve
a
is what
day
we
where
need.
a siren is gonna need replaced, and you're
Okay.
gonna have to cut a $25,000 check.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out when Sharon and I start talking about all of the residual
Right.
things of what,
You know, and I was able, I found a supply of parts. They're no longer making the parts that the landfill, the PD, and the water tank siren take. You can't get parts for them. If lightning strikes one of them and blows the control board, it's gonna cost $13,000 if you have to order the new system, because you have to get the entire controller. I was able to get a hold of some parts from Watertown because they did a big replacement program, and I think I'm gonna be able to get more of them, so hopefully that's gonna be able to tide us over until we can get some of this built up.
well, what I was looking, and there's two ways you can do it within the budget. We can set a reserve that rolls every year. We can put it in that department at the tune of $25,000, even though it isn't spent, then you can roll it into that line item the next year. You can do things two different ways as far as governmental accounting. The expenditure, though, do you think that that 2,000 is high enough in case something happens?
What I would encourage you to do, and I know this is gonna sound kinda strange, I would encourage you to maintain that $2,000 line item just the way you've got it for
Okay.
parts, maintenance, repairs. Additionally, I would encourage you to set a separate $5,000 annual line item toward replacement.
Not do the whole 25?
No, well, if you wanted to put 25 in an account, but what happens if you have two of them go in the same year? You know, if, with the parts that I've been able to procure, I think I've been able to procure, I'm really hoping that we can get through 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
And so, you know, if you set up a $5,000 rolling account, then in 5 years you can replace a siren. You know, but I would encourage you to keep that snowball going. And you know, maybe you reach the point where you've got enough, if these things last really well for you and you avoid the lightning strikes, maybe they last long enough to where you've got enough money to where you can replace 4 of your 5 sirens. You know, okay, then maybe you can quit
Okay.
adding that
Yeah.
at that point in time.
Alrighty.
But quite honestly, that's the reality of it, is the federal government will set it up, but they will not replace it. They will not upgrade it. They will not repair or maintain it. That's on the agency that owns the piece of property.
Okay. Okay.
So, to wit, like I say, emergency management's opinion is that those people that work inside this building should be warned of threatening events quickly. And that leads me to Code Red, which is great because, you know, everybody carries a cell phone these days. And the Informer. This is a gizmo that I just was made aware of a couple of weeks ago. What he is, it's a little smaller than a toaster. And that antenna, actually, it's programmed, it works just like a siren. It gets set off with the tones that set off the other sirens. So it will go off immediately when dispatch pushes the siren button. Whereas in the case of Code Red, if you're a dispatcher, National Weather Service calls you and says you got a tornado warning. You're gonna push the button on the sirens, you're gonna set them off. Then you're gonna signal Ormond Dam, and you gotta go through the audio, because you gotta tell them about it literally in speech, tornado coming, so on and so forth. The third thing you're gonna get to do is probably call Scott or myself. And then we would have to get in and make out a Code Red message and hit send. Quite honestly, we're looking at 5 to 10 minutes between the time that they get the National Weather Service alert until we even get the notification. And then, I've never done it, Scott, if you had a tornado alert, pull out your cell phone, type up a message, hit send, are you looking at 3 minutes?
That would be,
Long side, wouldn't it?
yeah, Yeah, just for maybe a minute and a half to 3 minutes, depending
Okay.
on what kind of errors I have with my fingers.
So I think with the communication times and stuff like that, from the time that dispatch found out about it until the time we actually got a code red going, I think you can safely say 10 minutes of other stuff going on. In a case of a tornado, that's quite a long time. This thing will go off with the same, like I say, it sets off with the same tones as the sirens do. And it's about, I think it's $602 for the unit. And I think the antenna and cable is about another 200. So we're looking at between 800, 850 bucks for this guy. What I'm doing is I'm gonna buy one. And I'd like to put it in the community center, in one of the schools somewhere that people need to get the message, and try it out. And if it performs like the salesman says it will, knock on wood, I'd like to look at using Homeland Security money, if I can, to purchase these. Because I believe every elderly care facility, every daycare, every school, the library, city hall, I think these should be all over the place in any kind of public, or any kind of a public building or a building where people are being cared for. That's my opinion. And if they're on the equipment list, then, you know, if it works like I hope it does, then, you know, that would be as simple as writing up the grant, getting the units, distributing them. Then you're looking at maintaining an $800, $850 piece of equipment. Now granted, higher cost per capita. You know, if you've got 15 people in City Hall, it's cost more per each one to alert them with something like this, but this also isn't out in the weather. I don't think that this is gonna require a lot of maintenance over the course of years, and if it does poop out on you, it's 800 bucks.
I have one question, will it go off with the noon siren?
I believe it can be programmed to do that or not to do that. I don't know if you have the ability to adjust that programming on your own.
Okay, because noon siren, I'm assuming that this thing, when it goes off, you know something's happening. It's like here at City Hall, where if you're having a meeting or something and that thing's
Correct.
going nuts, would be
Yes.
very, very annoying, or schools, or even elderly care facilities.
Considering that most people find the noon siren annoying to begin with.
Yeah, one of those going off and you're actually in your eardrum would be,
There are a lot of things you can do with them. If you have a PA system, you can actually plug it into your PA system and you can program in a relay to where if it goes off, it'll tune NOAA weather radio through your PA system. So as you're sheltering or evacuating, you can listen to NOAA weather radio. You can program it to where it just blinks and beeps a little bit sitting on your desk. Like I say, until I see it and learn a little more about it firsthand, I can't answer all the questions that I have, you know, and there are a lot of other questions that I haven't even thought of. But for 800 bucks, I thought I'd buy one and see what it was like. Because if it works, the hotel, you know, you can't hear a siren, can you? Now, I know you can't now, and even with Hat Ranch up and running, I don't think you'll be able to indoors.
No, if we have the window open, that's the only time we
Okay.
can hear.
You know, and if the wind is blowing 30 miles an hour and it's raining, like it's going to in front of a tornado, you probably don't have your windows open.
And if it's hailing, you're not gonna hear the sirens anyway.
Right, yeah. So anyhow, that's kind of the approach that I'm preparing to take, but I wanted to get everybody,
Well, and I appreciate this because Sharon and I will be starting on all of those ancillary things that we have as far as budget goes, these type of line items. So I'll make sure that I have this in the file that we consider this, so.
so I guess the biggest question that I had for you, does anyone disagree? Does anyone think that we really should look at putting in more sirens?
I think we should probably stick with the cheapest option first, and then if that doesn't work, then we should probably look at it.
Okay.
If you go and you do something like this will be an enhancement to the sirens that we already have. So we will be actually touching more lives by doing the sirens we have and this. Am I speaking correctly?
You're speaking exactly right, yes.
So, don't you think that this would be a good plan?
I think that
I
we
do.
should certainly look at getting them for Well, we'll get one, Tyler and I will test it out, we can even demo it a couple times, maybe in City Hall, some other places, and
That's what, it's got an external antenna, which I haven't seen, but I'm assuming it's like an 18-inch whip. With a 50-foot cable, you plug it into the back of this thing, and plug it into the wall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like to try it here and there and all over the place,
Okay,
just to see.
thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Tyler.
You're welcome.
This is another one, and which I'm coming on to more and more budget line items that haven't had a thought process with them before you go into budget. I ran into two the other day. And if we just get more and more of those, you know, get things updated,
Right.
so we really know what's going on.
Well, I don't think
that's one of the officers in the guy.
nobody really plans to repair or replace something that's brand new. And there hasn't been, I don't think there's been anyone in my position, you know, since these things started needing work, that long enough to really know what to do about it.
Well, remember when we started talking about that one siren, and we were going back and forth, and then we'd have a couple months, and then we went back and forth, and now you're telling me we're about 95% there. That's a lot further than we were a few months ago. So sometimes we don't think that we get a lot done, but actually we do.
That's a process.
Well, we're hoping we can just tell it to slow down how fast it sends those tones out. By doing that, it may not wake up the other four. So we might have to finagle something else, but we're getting there.
And this is also something citizens could buy if they wanted to.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, could.
If it's not on the equipment list and we really like it, I'll be pushing it and I'll be asking you to do the same thing, especially for our care facilities and daycares, because those folks need to know.
Thank you very
Thanks, Tyler.
much.
You're very welcome.
Can I have a motion in a second to go into executive session, please?
Thanks, see ya.
Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Dan.
No, come on, hey, you threw chips all over the floor.
I know, and I gotta clean up my